Yo, what up everybody, it's D.L. Stewart, and today I am back with another video about some of my future projects that I plan on working on. Today I will be talking about all the projects that I plan on writing as Peter Gracie, which will be my pen name for all my non-fantasy works. If you would like to see my videos that I will be writing as D.L. Stewart, that link is also down below. I did that last week, you can go check that out. But basically, I've got 20 projects altogether that I am currently working on or experimenting with. 10 of them are as D.L. Stewart and 10 of them is as Peter Gracie. Don't ask why, that's just how it came out. I was actually shocked whenever I actually wrote them all out. I was like, wow, okay. But yeah, let's just get into it. The first one will be my memoir, which is True Identities, or the slightly altered True Identities of the Fog Boys. True Identity is just shorter. But it's my memoir. It is basically about my experience of being a rapper and being, in a rap group with some of my friends and all of the fun, random, crazy stuff that we did, as well as some of the drama that cropped up and, all of that. The story actually starts place about a year before we actually ever started recording anything. When we just kind of first got the idea to be a group, and then a lot of drama kind of went on after that. But you kind of see that the forming of the group, and then some of the drama and the fallout, and then the kind of rebuilding and actual studio time and all that. And then it kind of goes through all the way until either when the band fell apart or whenever I decided to quit myself, because I continued about a year after the band fell apart, so I might kind of go ahead and do that. So you actually get like about 2 years of a year before the band started recording, and then a year after the band quit recording as a group. The formation of the band, and then me by myself doing a lot of solo stuff until kind of was not really forced to quit, but my mic played out and all that kind of stuff, so I just kind of quit and started writing. So I might kind of even transition the ending into going from making music to writing novels. I'm not sure yet. I might just end it whenever the group kind of fell apart, because there wasn't really much. I guess I might have like a chapter or two afterwards. There wasn't much exciting things, I guess, going on at that point. It just basically fell apart because I moved away, and then I was like the main organizer of everything, kind of keeping everything together. So yeah. But afterwards, me and Kyle had started a project. I had done a few solo stuff, so I might incorporate some of that in it. So you might get like a chapter or two after the band fell apart. But the memoir as a whole is our journey with this like music career, I guess, if you want to call it a career. But the forming of the group all the way through kind of us eventually stopping. But it will span about 6 years altogether, from 2009 to 2015. So it's going to be a lot of stuff to cover. And I think y'all will enjoy it. I've shared some of the experiences I've had and some of the little clips that I've already kind of wrote down with some people, and they've seemed to really enjoy it, so I hope y'all do. Me as myself, just, I don't know, natural. And my life's not that exciting. I think, well, I've done some pretty stupid stuff and some pretty outrageous things, and had the opportunity to do a lot of amazing things. And most of it stemmed from being in that group and being around those people that I associated myself with, that was in my group, or my producer or stuff like that. So I thought it would make a pretty cool story. It's going to be a memoir, but I feel like a lot of people will probably like it just as much as they would a fiction style book. It's not going to be all autobiography and just kind of plain and boring. It's going to have a lot of excitement and stuff in it as well, I feel. So yeah. The next story that I plan on writing is called Blood Games. It will be based in a fictional world. I have a hard time saying a fantasy world, but it's a made-up world. It's not fantasy. It's still grounded in our reality. It's just basically a fictional place, fictional lands, but it's still modern day, our world. There's, cell phones and cars and all that fun stuff. But the main character, he is a middle-aged white male who is a slave. And in their culture, their slaves are decided upon as children. If a parent needs money, they could sell the children into slavery for money, and then they will just live the rest of their lives as slaves. And the main character, can't even think of what name I gave him. His last name's Freeman. I remember that. But either way, he is a fighter. He is like a pit fighter. He does a lot of mixed martial arts, but it's not like MMA, arenas or anything else. It's not like watching UFC. It's, in a concrete parking lot or underground parking lot, type of ordeal. You're on asphalt. You don't get gloves or padding for your hands or anything like that. You don't get a mouthpiece to protect your teeth. You are just you're just like, back alley brawling with people. And then if you win, there's money involved, but since you're a slave, you don't get the money. Your masters get money. So, yeah. But it's from the point of view of this middle-aged male who has been a slave his whole life, and that's what he's known is fighting. That's what he's always been. There's other slaves that, work fields or work, around the house doing house chores, but he was, very physically built. So he was a fighter. The country that he lives in gets liberated, and all of the slaves are freed. So he is having to transition between being a slave to living in the real world, and it's told from the point of view of a middle-aged man that's all he's known, and now he's free, but he doesn't want to be free because he liked having the assurance of having a house to go home to. He liked, knowing that he was going to get fed at night or whatever. He wasn't mistreated like a lot of people think slaves were. A lot of slaves weren't, and he wasn't. He was, treated pretty good, especially since he was a fighter. So his masters would make sure that he had a proper diet, and was in the best physical and healthy state, so he could continue doing that. So he could continue making money for him. But he lacked all that assurance. But now that he's free, he's homeless. He has no money. He can't hardly even get a job because he doesn't have any education. He can't read. He can't write. He doesn't know anything like that. So it's told from his point of view of kind of struggling with that and just wanting to go back to being a slave and just fighting for the rest of his life. The third and fourth project that I have kind of under my belt as Peter Gracie that I'll be working on is my Left But Not Forgotten series, which is originally the first set of stories, my first thing of writing that I have ever done. I started it back in high school and just kind of pieced it together throughout high school and after high school, and it needs a lot of work. But Left But Not Forgotten, which would be the first book, it is about Izate Balumi, who is like a teenage, 18, Hispanic living in Texas. And he is involved with some people that sell drugs and are involved in like gang fights and shootouts and stuff like that. So a very rough background and, collection of friends. And they get in trouble, and he gets caught breaking and entering into a funeral home, and is in jail for the majority of the story. And while he's in jail, he finds out stuff that's going on with some of his friends and his girlfriend, and some other situations that are going on, within his circle of people. And then eventually he gets out, and he makes some pretty poor choices for someone who just got out of jail and ends up getting thrown back into jail. But that is the premise of the first book. The second book takes place years later. He gets out of jail that second time, and then he kind of reconnects with his ex-girlfriend a little bit, as well as kind of going on this rampage of some of the people that he thought was his friends that turned out to be just kind of using him, or not really much of a friend, not really using him, but they was just kind of whatever. And they had done him wrong, so he kind of goes on this rampage. And then he gets pretty brutal and kills some people, and yeah, that's that story. So that's the basis of the two stories. I wanted to kind of write it from the point of view of what most people would perceive to be an antagonist, without really writing a protagonist, because he is the protagonist. You could say that some of his friends or whatever friends are truly the antagonist, but I didn't want the protagonist to be a good guy. I mean, he is a good guy. Like I tell people that I'm a good guy, but he does make some bad choices, and he does involve himself freely into some bad situations and stuff like that. So I wanted to write it from this character's point of view that's not really one way or the other. He's not really a goody two-shoes. He's not like a good guy that most protagonists are. He's more on the darker side. So that was my idea for writing that story. And I do intend on some point going back and making it a lot better than what it is, because right now it's got a bunch of random stuff. It's going to have to go under a lot of rewrites and restructuring and stuff like that. The fifth project that I plan on working on could be considered as an urban fantasy. So it's still a little bit fantasy, but not like a lot. It's not like my Lands of the Abyss collection or anything like that. But it will involve some magical whatever type elements. And it is Demon Thieves. This might turn into a multiple book series. I had kind of thought about it. I don't know. But the premise of this, or the origin of this story, was actually like a dream that I had. Or I guess it would be a nightmare. I don't really get scared of nightmares or anything like that. I wake up and, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm kind of one of those, I forgot what they're called. But you can kind of control your dreams type people order. I can do that when I sleep. So I never really had nightmares that like scare me or anything. But I think it's kind of cool, and I like to experience that type of stuff in dreams. But this one I had, and I really enjoyed it. And it was based on me as me, and a lot of people that I knew. But the reality was kind of augmented and warped and stuff. And basically, for some reason, I went to my grandparents' house back when they lived out in the country. And these guys had, I don't know, I think there was like 4 of them. I would have to go back and look at my notes, because I like wrote down like when I woke up like exactly what happened at the dream to use as the premise of the book. And there was like these 4 guys that showed up at my grandparents' house. And apparently my grandpa owed them money and he didn't have it. And they killed him. And all 4 of these guys were classified as demons. And they was known as the Demon Thieves because they had been robbing banks and stores and stuff. And each one of the guys had a different magical ability. There's one that his like saliva was like very combustible. So he would spit on the ground and like it would set fire right there or whatever. He smoked cigarettes, so he would just take a cigarette out and stick it to his tongue and light it that way. There's one that could control like electrical stuff like TVs and surveillance cameras and stuff like that. I can't remember the other two's powers. I'd have to kind of go back to my notes and look. But it was pretty cool. These like this band of 4 demons. They looked humanoid, or they didn't look like demons with horns or anything. But there's these 4 guys that had magical powers. And they was robbing places and stuff like that. And then I had went to work at Lowe's, and they showed up and started taking people hostage and killing people, and burning down the building, and I don't know what all. And then there was this twist at the very end I thought was amazing. And the event that happened at the very end of that, which I'm not going to really give away now. I might give it away whenever I break down all these for my Patreons. But that little twist or whatever at the very end, I thought was kind of cool. And like a couple of days later, that same event actually happened. And it's not like something that just naturally happens. It was just like something I was like, oh, wow. It was like foreshadowing of an actual event that happened in real life. And I was like, okay, that was kind of weird. But yeah, so that would be the premise of the first book, that my whole dream. And then I'll start getting these ideas for like future books in that series. Since I said there was like 4 of them, my dream, all 4 of them was in there, but it was focused more on one and his abilities and stuff. And I was thinking maybe some like continue the series and focus more on some of the other demons or whatever like that. So I don't know. Right now, that's the only one I actually plan on writing, but I might eventually add to it and make it a series. I'm not sure, but yeah, thought that was a pretty cool dream, nightmare, whatever, and I plan on writing it at some point. The 6th and 7th story that I plan on writing is also not really fantasy or paranormal, but it is more on the supernatural spectrum, and it is called The Banishment, or Banished Revelations, which would be the second one. But the first one's The Banishment, and it is more on the spiritual plane of like heaven and hell and stuff like that, with some mentions of Earth and some scenes and chapters from Earth. But it is from the banishment of Lucifer. The first book is kind of starts out before the banishment and kind of what leads up to the banishment, and then Lucifer getting banished to Earth, and then also it continues to the banishment of the other fallen angels, and kind of some of the reasons why they were banished and this and that. Not necessarily the ones that chose to leave with Lucifer when he got banished, like they was his followers, but the other ones that had mingled with humans and this and that and got banished for that purpose. So it kind of goes along with that aspect, and it's going to be told from a point of view of one of the angels. I'm not sure exactly which one. I might use one that's actually, believed to have existed or exists, or I might create my own. But he is like more of a warrior angel, and he goes and he's the one that actually physically banishes them. He gets his orders to banish them. He goes and, breaks their halo and rips off their wings and stuff like that, and then, actually banishes them. That's his job. So it's going to be told from his point of view. But the first book, The Banishment, that's what's basically about, is all that banishing and stuff. And then the second book would be The Banishment Revelations. And if you've read the Bible or know anything about the Bible, the last book is called Revelations, and it is basically about the apocalypse and basically breaking out and heaven and hell and their great battle. So I was going to take that and expand upon that and make that, into an actual story. Still kind of following the same ordeal. And the timeline is going to be kind of squished closer together. It's not going to be like Lucifer got banished and then thousands upon thousands or hundreds of thousands of years later, Revelations happens. Because in, Christianity and stuff, there's a saying that, our lives are like a blink in the eye or something to God or whatever, or even less than that. So it's basically going to be kind of depicted as the time in our world isn't the same as in heaven and hell. What might take hundreds of years here only actually took like a second there. So it will all kind of play together. Like he gets banished, and then after he gets banished in the first book, he starts this rebellion type ordeal, and then the war breaks out. It's not like this long pause in between it. It's all seamlessly happening together. The 8th project that I plan on writing as Peter Gracie is Bullet Wounds. Bullet Wounds was originally going to be the 3rd book in my Left But Not Forgotten series, but technically it has nothing to do with anything. It was just going to follow that same main character, and he was going to somehow get drafted into the military. even though he was like a criminal who went on a serial killer spree or whatever. It wouldn't happen. And when I go back and do my Left But Not Forgotten, I'm going to make it more feasible and realistic. So I was like, this would not happen. But I had already wrote probably a good 3/4 of Bullet Wounds. So I'm going to take that and continue it as its own standalone. It's going to have a different main character. I'm going to have to change some stuff around on that because I know there's some mentions to the first 2 books of the Left But Not Forgotten series in it. So I'm going to have to take those out or redo it to fit the new character. But it is basically a guy who, he's kind of stubborn or whatever, kind of stuck in his ways, but he gets drafted and has to go to war. And it was, at the time I was writing this is kind of when the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and all that stuff was kind of starting or had started a little bit or whatever. It was kind of getting kind of big and heated, I guess, from what I had heard. So he goes to war over there, and that's kind of what it follows. So like I said, I plan on continue writing that story and making some changes and release it. And it was going to be called Left But Not Forgotten Bullet Wounds, but now it's just going to be called Bullet Wounds. But it's going to be an actual war story. And then the last 2 stories I plan on writing as Peter Gracie is my junkie stories. It might actually end up being 3. I don't know. But if it is, the one that we'll be adding to it will be actually the 2nd book. Or at least the title. The first one's going to be called Dirt Junkies. And the second one's going to be called Pain Junkies. If I do write a 3rd book, it will be Dirt Junkies as the first one, then Crash Junkies as the 2nd, and then Pain Junkies as the 3rd. I still want Pain as the last one and Dirt as the first. But basically, it is a demolition derby type of book. The main character gets into demolition derbies and banger racings and stuff like that, which is stuff that I enjoy. Dirt Junkies is kind of, the main character gets introduced to it. He already kind of knows, about derbies and banger racings and stuff like that. But one of his friends actually participates and he kind of gets talked into doing it. And then after he does it, he becomes a junkie. He gets addicted to that kind of environment. He likes the adrenaline. He likes the, roar of the engines and the vibrations and the whatever. So he gets addicted to it and starts doing that. And then if it is just going to be 2 books at the end of the first book or closer to the end, this traumatic experience happens to him, and his life is kind of changed. And then going into Pain Junkies, it's him kind of dealing with that, and then slowly getting back into the whole derby scene and stuff again, because when that experience happens, he kind of, quit doing derbies and everything else. He just kind of became a hermit and kind of kept to himself and didn't really go out or anything like that. But, he kind of gets slowly drugged back into the environment and stuff for Pain Junkies. If it's going to be 3 books, if there will be a Crash Junkies, Pain Junkies, or Dirt Junkies is just going to be him kind of getting introduced to the stuff and enjoying it. And it won't be until sometime in Crash Junkies when he actually has that traumatic experience or situation, life situation or whatever with him. And that will go more into him going through that experience and more, some of the side effects that's had on him. And then still Pain Junkies would be him kind of pulling himself out of that slump and quit being a hermit and actually getting back into the scene and stuff like that. So that would be what my Junkies series is. But yeah, that's all 10 projects that I plan on writing under the name Peter Gracie. Like I said earlier, I have another video that I posted last week Links down in the description of that video, and it is the 10 projects that I am currently planning on writing as D.L. Stewart, which is within my Lands of the Abyss fantasy universe or world or whatever. But yeah, that in total is 20 different projects that I am currently working on or plan on working on in the future. I hope you all enjoyed it. If not, oh well. If you want to know any more about these projects or whatever, or my fantasy projects, go support me on Patreon, and over time I will be sharing more in-depth descriptions or whatever of the stories over time, you know, and I will dedicate a video per project. If it's a series, I might do the entire series in that video, but I will go more in depth than what I have in these videos. I'll talk more about the characters and some of the motivations, and maybe even give y'all some mild spoilers in some of the stories. Not all of the stories. I know some stories there's a major spoiler I don't want to give away, but other stories I'm just like, this is kind of a spoiler, but I don't care if y'all know, so I will be even kind of divulging those things if you want to know more about that kind of stuff. I'm very open to talk about film, so whatever. But yeah, that will only be available to my Patreon. So like I said, go click on the link down below and support me on there. You can support me for as little as $1 a month, and you know, you'll get full access to all of that stuff. But besides all of that, that is about all I've got for y'all today. All my links are down below. I got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, a Patreon, I got a website, a newsletter you can sign up for. I have a blog on my website, and I have this YouTube channel. I'm hoping to be able to expand upon all of these within this year, and to be able to expand upon these stories over the next several years. So I have a lot to work on, so you don't have to worry about, is he going to write anymore? You know, I get that question a lot whenever I tell people I wrote METAGORE, or I'm working on a METAGORE series. They're like, what do you plan on writing thing afterwards? Yeah, I've got all of these ideas, and I'm not going to stop until I get all of them wrote. And I plan on, you know, probably coming up with even more ideas later on. So I'm going to be busy for the next several years. So yeah, y'all don't have to worry about that. But all my links are down below. There's a list of other author tubers you can go check out. All their links to their YouTube channels are down below. You can go click on them and support them, like them, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I also have a link to some live stream write-ins if you are an author and you would like to participate in those and get more connected in the community and stuff. So all that stuff's down below. But that's about it. Thank y'all for watching. Peace out, Ely. Everybody love everybody.